In the town of Ashwood, population 183, we had 2 gas stations, 1 grocery, and 4 churches. When the drought came, none of them helped. We stood under the pale skies, praying for rain as cracks widened across the road and dirt blew like ash across Main Street. We prayed into parched silence. Our reservoir had dried to a cracked crater. The state sent us paperwork, but no water. The governor promised interest-free loans, but the fine print meant bankruptcy. Farmers packed up and left. Families moved in with cousins 2 counties over. 1 house collapsed from heat stress. 3 more followed that month. Our school closed. Our doctor left. By September, Ashwood was dying. Then came the idea. My idea. I was one of only 5 who had gone off to college and come back, mostly out of stubbornness. My mom ran the Ashwood General, and after my dad passed, she didn't want to leave. I came home to help. No one else had come back, not really, not to stay. So I was the only one who thought of the old lodge on the ridge. Everyone in town knew about it. The Thorn, they called it. An old stone building left behind from stranger times. The original settlers had come from somewhere in Europe, built the lodge before they built homes, before they built the town. No one had touched it in decades, but inside were strange things. Old furniture carved with symbols, faded books in no known language, a massive black circle on the floor made of inlaid stone, and one artifact no one ever moved, the horn. It hung in the center of the hall from a wooden rack, as long as a forearm, carved with thousands of tiny markings. I remembered it from field trips as a kid. Some say it called the rain once, our teacher used to joke. Others say it called worse. But as the dust storms rose in late October, I stopped thinking it was funny. The Horn of Ashwood wasn't decoration anymore. It was the only chance we had left. We didn't have a town council anymore, just a Friday night meeting at the diner where whoever showed up made decisions. That night, I brought the idea. There wasn't much debate. People were desperate enough to try anything, so we marched, 87 of us, up the cracked dirt road to the Thorn. We cleaned the circle in the center, cleared cobwebs, and lit candles we found in the basement. We stood in a ring around the circle. I took the horn, held it to my lips, and blew. There was no sound. I thought it had failed, until I noticed everyone had fallen silent. A pressure filled the room, like the air before a thunderclap. The candles flickered sideways. Then a figure appeared. Not from smoke or shadow, just was suddenly. Humanoid, tall, shimmering like water in the sun, featureless and faceless, and utterly still. No one spoke. Then rain began to fall. Not outside, but inside, light and misty, evaporating before it hit the floor. We stared in awe. Some people cried, a few collapsed. Then the thing turned its head toward me, though it had no eyes. And it bowed. The next day, the first clouds in months rolled across the horizon. By evening, it rained properly, poured. The reservoir began to refill. The fields softened. The dry riverbed trickled again. Everyone credited the entity. Everyone praised the horn. Ashwood celebrated. People hugged on porches. Some danced in the puddles. Church bells rang. And I just watched, knowing something had been set in motion. The Friday after, we met again. Someone asked, could the entity fix more than the rain? Could it fix the grain silos damaged by wind? Could it restore the town library, closed since the storm of '97? Could it cure Ms. Hartman's cancer? All eyes turned to me. I still had the horn. I hesitated. Then I blew it again. The figure appeared once more, just as silent, just as shining. We formed the circle again. This time we held hands. We each thought of Ms. Hartman. She was there, eyes hollow, skin gray from chemo. The air grew heavy. The circle glowed faint blue. And when it faded, she stood straighter. Her voice was clear. Her doctor's visit the next day confirmed it. Cancer gone. The town began to hope again. They didn't call it the entity anymore. They started calling it Grace. In November, it built a new grain elevator. In December, it repaired the water tower. In January, it brought in heat waves that kept our pipes from freezing, even while the power lines stayed down. But the process took something. After every summoning, we all felt it, like we'd run a marathon in our sleep. Headaches, fatigue, mood swings. The kids recovered fastest. The elderly took days. I started passing out in the lodge after each ceremony. But what could we do? It worked. Then came February, when the town bank reopened, not fixed, rebuilt. 3 stories tall now, modern and gleaming. People murmured. Who asked for that? Turned out Ellis, the old banker, had written it into the list himself. A list? Yes. A master list of miracles, kept in the back room of the diner. People lined up to add to it. Everyone wanted something now. New roads, repaired barns, restored classic cars, better churches, cell towers, even hair transplants. And once it was written and approved, it happened. Always. The lodge became a daily ritual. Every dusk we summoned Grace and paid our price. By March, I was sleeping 12 hours a day and still waking up exhausted. My hands trembled constantly. Others weren't doing much better. Ms. Hartman, cured Ms. Hartman, collapsed at the gas station, died in her car. Her son claimed she'd been drained dry. A few of us confronted Ellis. He shrugged. Everything costs something, he said. God doesn't give handouts. But this isn't God, I snapped. He just smiled. In April, some folks stopped showing up to the lodge. Not many, 5, maybe 6. They just didn't want to pay anymore. Grace still worked, though. The entity didn't seem to care. Then we found out the truth. Ellis and his group had changed the rules. They had figured out how to redirect contributions. If someone skipped a ritual, their share was taken from the others, quietly, without telling anyone. And once that started, people began using it deliberately. Want a miracle but don't want to feel the drain? Just assign it to someone else. Assign it to the weak, the old, the unliked. By May, 4 people had died. All coincidences, of course. Liza, the nurse, came to me in secret. She showed me the notebook, Ellis's log. Every person, every date, every drained life. At the bottom, my name, 10 check marks next to it. I'd paid for 10 separate rituals without my consent. I snapped. I stole the horn and hid it in my basement. No summoning that night. The town panicked. The mayor called an emergency meeting. People shouted in the streets. Ellis tried to calm them, told them he'd fix it. He even held a proxy ritual without the horn, claiming they didn't need it anymore. Grace did not appear. The next day, crops wilted. I refused to give the horn back. I locked it in a steel box, changed homes each night. Only Liza and my brother knew where I was. Others joined us quietly. The Resistance, they called us. Then came the Tuesday flood, a massive burst of water from the reservoir, a freak breach, they said, washed through Lower Ashwood. 6 homes gone, 1 life lost. Ellis claimed it was because we skipped the ritual, but I knew better. Grace hadn't left. It had changed. At the edge of the flood zone, people reported seeing something, a shimmering shape watching from the hill. More reports came. Animals dead in the woods, drained and pale. People waking with black eyes, forgetting how they got home. Heat flashes that melted tires, freezing gusts in the dead of summer. Grace wasn't Grace anymore. It was becoming something else. July arrived. We made a plan. That Friday we'd gather everyone at the lodge again, not to summon but to end it. At sunset I returned, the horn in my hands. Everyone was already there. Ellis stood front and center. "You going to fix what you broke?" he said with a smile. "No," I said. "I'm going to break it for good." I blew the horn. But not as before. I walked into the circle alone. I didn't ask anyone to join me. I thought of the damage, the deaths, the lies. I thought of Liza, shot in the leg the night before by one of Ellis's men. I thought of Miss Hartman's final look of confusion. I thought of the way Grace had bowed to me once, and I demanded it bow again. It appeared, not shimmering now, but flickering, charred at the edges. Its light was red, and its shape was wrong. The crowd gasped. Grace opened its mouth for the first time, a low sound like metal bending under strain. I turned to the others. "This is what we built. This is what we've fed. And it's starving for more." Ellis lunged for the horn. I threw it into the fire pit. The air screamed. Grace lunged. The roof of the lodge exploded outward. People ran. Some fell. The ground buckled. Trees split open. But I didn't move. Grace came for me. I looked into its red center. I whispered, "We release you." It paused, flickered. Then it shattered like glass hit with a hammer. The horn cracked in the fire. A burst of blue light ripped through the room, and then silence, real silence. The next day, half the town packed up and left. The other half started over. No one talks about Grace now. No one goes to the lodge. But every time it rains, I look toward the ridge, just to be sure. Because we didn't just call it. We built it. And there's no guarantee it stayed gone. Sometimes I still hear the sound, faint at dusk, like wind through a hollow horn.